Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a seriously wild tactical breakdown in this explainer. We are looking at what actually happens when modern military logistics collide head-on with ancient mythological magic. We're skipping the long intros today because we're jumping right into a massive thought experiment. We're putting the absolute limits of modern physics up against the supernatural. Just picture it for a second. What if a modern military force woke up one day and had to fight a literal, living, breathing mythological dragon? Imagine the sheer, unprecedented global panic. A foreign operating base, or maybe a carrier strike group, suddenly tracks an airborne target moving at completely impossible speeds, and it's projecting a radar signature that is totally unidentifiable to any known aircraft. The alarm bells wouldn't just be ringing, they'd be absolutely deafening. So here's our roadmap for the breakdown today. First, an impossible encounter. Second, magic disrupts the battlefield. Third, the physics counterattack. Fourth, death from the horizon. And finally, number 5, the classified aftermath. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, an impossible encounter. Once command actually gets visual confirmation of this threat, they are staring down a biological impossibility. We're talking about a living creature that is the exact same size as a Boeing 747 passenger jet. Just let that massive scale sink in for a moment. This isn't just a large animal. It's practically a flying skyscraper dropping directly into a combat zone. It literally shatters every known law of biology right on contact. The sheer scale of this Goliath is just staggering. It's an absolute anomaly, wrapped up in armor that is harder than modern tank plating, and it's burning hot enough internally to literally melt solid steel. The immediate reaction from military command? Profound disbelief, for sure, but that would be instantly followed by a frantic scramble to adapt, as our standard laws of physics are just completely mocked by ancient magic. Which brings us to Section 2, magic disrupts the battlefield. Now, when ancient magic meets modern tech on the ground, the result is absolute chaos and disruption. First up, you have the plasma breath. This is a continuous stream of superheated, pressurized fire that would easily incinerate unarmored transport vehicles, and it would literally detonate the exposed ammunition stores of infantry units. Then you've got the intense heat itself. That heat creates localized atmospheric thermal columns, which completely ruins the aerodynamics for low-flying attack helicopters and drones. It basically blinds our eye in the sky. And honestly, perhaps the worst part is the magical anatomy of the beast itself. It creates this EMP-like aura of dread. Communication networks just fail. Suddenly, your highly coordinated modern troops are thrust right back into primitive, line-of-sight tactics against an apex predator that completely commands the sky. Let's move on to Section 3. The physics counterattack. Okay, so this is the turning point. This is where the military shakes off that initial shock and awe of the supernatural and starts relying on the brutal math of heavy kinetic ordnance. At first, ground troops are going to realize something pretty terrifying. Standard infantry small arms, completely ineffective. Rifle fire simply deflects and bounces uselessly off those dense interlocking dragon scales. But that is exactly when the combat shifts to an entirely different energy scales. The military coordinates its response and rolls out the heavy hitters. We're talking about the deployment of main battle tanks, specifically loaded with depleted uranium kinetic energy penetrators. The absolute crucial point here is velocity. A main battle tank firing one of those depleted uranium rounds is sending that projectile downrange at over 1,500 meters per second. That is a staggering, almost incomprehensible amount of kinetic energy. It operates on a level of physics that biological evolution, even a magical one, could just never anticipate. Really think about the mechanics of this for a second. When a projectile is moving fast enough to punch right through reinforced steel armor, the blunt force trauma and penetration against even magical organic tissue and bone would be utterly devastating. Sure, the dragon's scales might stop a standard bullet, but there is no way they can stop the concentrated kinetic fury of a tank round hitting it at supersonic speeds. That leads us right into Section 4, death from the horizon. The timeline for the aerial counterattack is just clinically fast. At T0, satellite and radar locks are achieved. Within 1 single minute, stealth fighters like the F-22 Raptor or the F-35 Lightning II are approaching. And crucially, they remain completely invisible, miles and miles away from the beast. At the 2-minute mark, they launch radar-guided missiles traveling at Mach 4. By minute 3, the dragon is struck before it even registers that it's being hunted. And this right here really highlights the fatal flaw of the beast. The dragon is an ancient creature, right? So it relies on a prehistoric strategy, visual hunting and close-range destruction. It literally needs to see you to burn you. But modern military strategy is the exact opposite. It's built entirely around the concept of the invisible enemy. It's designed specifically to eliminate targets from completely beyond the horizon. The dragon is basically fighting a war from 1,000 years ago, while humanity is bringing the full, calculated weight of the 21st century. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, the classified aftermath. Look, the military isn't going to just stop at eliminating the immediate threat. They systematically dismantle the entire thing. They use constant satellite tracking to absolutely deny the creature, or any of its kind, the advantage of surprise ever again. Next, heavy artillery thoroughly saturates any discovered nesting grounds with high explosives. And what about those deep caves? Well, bunker-busting munitions are deployed to effortlessly penetrate and collapse those subterranean layers. It is a thorough, highly calculated extermination. This whole scenario brings us to the concept of reigning supreme. Yes, obviously, the initial encounter would yield heavy military casualties. The sudden, violent appearance of real magic would cause profound global panic, no doubt about it. But the inevitable conclusion here is that human technology, adapting and iterating, overcomes that initial shock to assert absolute dominance. In the end, the dragon is defeated and its remains are completely secured by the military. Think about the crazy paradigm shift here. A world-ending Goliath, a literal creature of legend, is reduced to nothing more than a highly classified subject. Its biology, its scales, those internal fire-generating organs, the whole shebang undergoes rigorous biological and advanced military research. We don't just defeat the magic, guys, we dissect it. It really brings us to this simple, undeniable truth. While magic is loud and terrifying, modern warfare is a cold, calculated science. Humans have spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction through physics, math, and chemistry. Against that kind of relentless, systematic methodology, even the most terrifying magical creatures find themselves completely outmatched. Which leaves us with a final, fascinating question to ponder today. What other terrifying, legendary beasts would modern physics just easily dismantle in a war game scenario? I mean, if a dragon falls to an F-22 from beyond the horizon, how does a kraken fare against a nuclear submarine? Or what about a hydra against a laser-guided smart bomb? It really makes you appreciate the awe-inspiring and sometimes kind of terrifying power of human ingenuity. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you on the next one.